The town that stayed quiet. No one remembers the exact moment they enter Greyhaven. Later, when they try to retrace their steps, the road behind them feels shorter, as if miles have been swallowed while they weren't looking. Ethan Rowe drove for 6 hours without stopping. His GPS lost signal an hour before dusk. The radio dissolved into static, then silence, yet the display insisted music was still playing. The forest pressed closer the farther he went. Trees leaned inward, their branches bending like fingers attempting to meet in the middle of the road. Then the sign appeared. Welcome to Greyhaven. The wood was old, the paint peeled in long vertical streaks that looked disturbingly like dried tears. As Ethan passed it, the rain stopped instantly. Not gradually, instantly. The town was too clean. Not modern clean, preserved clean, like a museum display that hadn't been touched in decades. No trash, no weeds, no movement. Every house had curtains drawn, every porch light glowed faintly, even though the sun hadn't fully set. Ethan parked outside the gas station, the only building with its lights fully on. Inside, the attendant stood motionless. He didn't blink. "You shouldn't have come this late," the man said, without moving his mouth much. "I inherited a house from my grandmother." The attendant's eyes twitched. "Oh," he said softly. "Then it already knows you."
The attendant slid a piece of paper across the counter. It was old, grease-stained, written by many hands. Rules for staying alive in Greyhaven. Do not go outside during the quiet. Do not answer voices you recognize. Do not dig. If you see yourself, look away. If the town begins to breathe, hide underground. Ethan laughed nervously. "This a joke?" The attendant leaned closer. No one laughs the second time. His grandmother's house waited at the edge of town. It sighed when he unlocked the door. Inside, the air smelled damp and metallic. The walls bulged slightly, expanding and contracting like lungs. Floorboards creaked even when he stood still. That night, at 2:17 a.m., the mirrors fogged. Handprints appeared from the inside.
The silence fell so suddenly, Ethan thought he'd gone deaf. No wind, no insects, no blood in his ears. Then, a voice. "Ethan, let me in." It was his mother's voice. Outside, under the streetlight, she stood, smiling. Her face twitched, resetting itself every few seconds, like it was struggling to remember how to be human. The streetlight flickered. She stepped closer. Ethan did not move. Behind her, the road cracked open slightly, revealing something wet and moving beneath the asphalt. When sound returned, she was gone. But fingerprints remained on the glass. They were inside the house. Greyhaven's library had a basement. The basement had another basement. Below that was a tunnel system lined with shelves made of bone. Books were stitched together with hair. Pages were skin-thin and warm. Every book was a name. Every name was a person who had tried to leave. When Ethan touched one, he remembered dying. The children never blinked. They whispered to the ground. They played games involving rules that changed mid-sentence. One child removed his own fingernails and fed them to the dirt. "Shh," he said, "it's listening." That night, a man was sacrificed at the playground, pulled screaming into the earth while the children laughed. The swing sets kept moving long after. Townspeople began peeling, faces removed carefully, hung in homes like family photos. Beneath, their features were unfinished, half-grown mouths, eyes that opened and closed randomly. They wore expressions of relief. "We don't have to pretend anymore," they said. Ethan finally dug. Beneath the town was not dirt. It was Greyhaven itself, growing downward endlessly, organs, veins, memories layered over centuries. The listener did not sleep. It waited. It spoke in every voice Ethan loved. It offered him a choice: leave and carry it with him forever. Stay and be forgotten. The harvest always began quietly. Greyhaven believed in courtesy. The sky darkened hours before sunset, clouds thickening into a solid mass that swallowed what little light remained. Streetlights flickered on without electricity, glowing with a dull amber hue that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan felt it before he saw it. A vibration underfoot. Not an earthquake, not movement. Breathing. The town inhaled. Every building exhaled a wet, organic sigh. Windows fogged, doors swelled in their frames. The pavement rippled as if something enormous were shifting just beneath the surface, adjusting itself to wakefulness. Church bells rang once, then cracked in half. People emerged from their homes in silence. No conversation, no hesitation. They walked barefoot across the streets, their skin pale and stretched, veins visible beneath like blue wiring. Many carried tools, knives dulled by age, hooks, gardening shears, rusted saws. Some carried nothing at all. They didn't need to. At the center of town, the square split open. The ground peeled back like a wound, and the listener rose. Not fully, never fully, only enough to feed. Ethan watched from behind the library steps, bile burning his throat. The thing beneath Greyhaven was vast beyond comprehension, a layered architectural horror made of muscle, stone, bone, and memory. Faces protruded from its surface, half-formed and screaming silently. Some he recognized. His grandmother, the gas station attendant, a version of himself, eyes hollow, mouth sewn shut. The townspeople knelt. The listener listened. The first scream came from a man Ethan had spoken to only once, the butcher. He stood, trembling before the open earth. He smiled. Then he began to peel. Fingers hooked beneath his jawline, skin separated with a sound like wet paper tearing. He pulled downward slowly, reverently, as if unwrapping a gift. Blood spilled freely, yet he did not scream. Not yet. When the face came off completely, the butcher held it up toward the listener like an offering. Beneath, his skull was incomplete, patches of muscle and shadow where bone should have been, eyes blinking independently of one another. The listener leaned closer. Black tendrils rose from the pit and wrapped around the butcher's body. Then came the screaming. The sound didn't come from his mouth, it came from everywhere else. His chest split open vertically, ribs peeled outward. Inside, his organs rearranged themselves, twisting into something new, something functional. The listener absorbed him slowly, learning. Around the square, others followed. Faces removed, limbs broken and reshaped, people folding themselves willingly into architecture, arms pressed into walls, legs sinking into the street, spines bending until they became doorframes and lampposts. Greyhaven was rebuilding itself, using flesh.
Ethan ran. The moment he turned away, the town noticed. Buildings shifted to block his path, streets bent inward, looping back on themselves. Doors appeared where there had been walls before, opening hungrily. The quiet fell again, but heavier now, thicker. Every sound he made felt absorbed by the air, swallowed before it could escape his body. He sprinted past the playground. The swings were gone. In their place, bodies hung from chains, still alive, still whispering rules to the dirt beneath them. "Don't dig," one moaned. "Don't look," said another, eyes leaking black fluid. The forest loomed ahead. Freedom. Ethan burst through the tree line and screamed. The woods were hollow. Trees bent inward, their trunks split open to reveal rows of teeth. Branches flexed like fingers, grabbing at his clothes, tearing fabric, skin, memory. The forest was not surrounding Greyhaven, it was part of it. He stumbled back into town. The road behind him had sealed. Ethan found himself face to face with himself. Dozens of them. They stepped out of doorways, peeled free from walls, rose from the street like reflections escaping glass. Each version represented a choice he could have made, paths not taken, lives abandoned. One was older, one was a child. One wore his mother's face stretched unnaturally over his own skull. They spoke in unison. "You could have left sooner." They lunged. Hands clawed into his shoulders, his arms, his chest, fingers sinking too deep, grasping bone and nerve. One Ethan sank its teeth into his forearm, tearing muscle free with a wet crunch. Pain exploded through him. The listener watched, learning how pain felt to him. Ethan screamed until his throat tore. The copies dragged him toward the square, toward the open earth. The listener spoke again, this time not in one voice, but in thousands layered together, harmonizing badly. "You may still go." The ground beneath Ethan split. He glimpsed what leaving truly meant, a future where Greyhaven followed him, where every loved one slowly became wrong, where mirrors learned his face, where silence waited behind every sound, where sleep was impossible because the town whispered constantly, begging to be fed. "You will be our door," the listener said. "You will bring us new places." Ethan sobbed. "I'll stay," he whispered. The listener paused, considering. The copies released him. The townspeople approached, not threatening now, but gentle, almost grateful. Hands rested on his shoulders. "We needed someone who could choose," they said. They led him to the house. His grandmother's house. It peeled open willingly. Inside, the walls were lined with faces. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They watched him with relief. Ethan was laid on the basement floor. The flesh beneath the boards parted, warm, waiting. The listener reached up and began to take him apart. Not violently, carefully. They took his memories first. Childhood dissolved,
Names blurred, faces melted into abstraction. Pain faded. Fear followed. Then his voice was stretched thin and threaded into the quiet. His bones pressed into the foundation. His eyes became windows, watching forever, never blinking. The final thing they took was his name. Without it, he could not leave. Without it, he could not scream. Greyhaven inhaled and became still. There was still awareness. That was the cruelty of it. Ethan no longer had a body in the way humans understand bodies, but sensation remained, diffuse, stretched thin across places that should not have been connected. He felt the chill of night on brick, the weight of footsteps on pavement, the vibration of voices through walls that were now part of him. He was everywhere in pieces. A fragment of his spine supported the library's east wall. One of his ribs curved gently beneath a park bench. His hands, no longer hands, had become something structural, load-bearing, essential. His thoughts came slowly now, not as words, as impressions. The listener did not erase him. It distributed him.
Greyhaven adjusted around Ethan. Windows where his eyes had settled learned how to watch better. Street corners where his fear lingered grew darker, more effective at hiding things. Mirrors, infused with his memory of reflection, became doors, thin places where the town practiced wearing faces. The listener absorbed everything he had been. His regrets taught it patience, his love taught it persuasion, his terror taught it timing. Greyhaven became more convincing, more human. The quiet grew smoother, more complete. No longer a sudden absence of sound, but a pressure, like hands gently covering ears from the inside. People didn't panic anymore when it fell. They smiled. Ethan tried to remember his mother's face. He could not. He tried to remember his own. There was nothing solid left to grasp. Names were gone, concepts dissolved, time lost meaning. Days passed, or centuries without distinction. Only one thought remained intact, a simple one. Someone will come. The listener encouraged this thought. It fed it. Hope, after all, was the most reusable resource.
When the listener slept, Greyhaven slept with it. Houses settled into comfortable shapes. Streets smoothed over scars. The flesh beneath the town hardened into something resembling stone. Those who had offered themselves completely became permanent fixtures, faces frozen into walls, mouths forming gutters, eyes becoming attic windows. No one mourned them. They were still here. The town did not believe in loss, only rearrangement. Years later, or moments, the road returned. It unfurled itself gently from the forest, like a tongue tasting the air. The trees relaxed their grip just enough to allow passage. The sign was repainted. Welcome to Greyhaven. The paint was still wet. A car approached at dusk. A young woman drove alone, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Her GPS flickered uselessly. The radio whispered fragments of songs that no longer existed. As she crossed into town, the rain stopped. Instantly. She felt it then, that sensation she couldn't name, like being recognized, like being expected.
She pulled into the gas station. Inside, a man waited. He looked tired, hollow, familiar in a way that hurt to examine too closely. "You passing through?" he asked. His voice carried a resonance now, layered, patient. She hesitated. "No," she said. "I think I'll stay the night." The man smiled. Somewhere beneath the town, something vast shifted slightly in its sleep. Ethan felt it.
As night settled, Greyhaven grew still. Too still. No wind, no insects, no distant hum of life. The quiet fell. In a house at the edge of town, mirrors fogged. Handprints appeared from the inside. And deep within the foundations, spread thin across brick and bone and memory, Ethan listened. Greyhaven does not trap people. It keeps them. It learns their voices. It practices their faces. It waits until someone listens back. And when the town grows quiet, it is because it is very carefully remembering you.